So, I had a small problem while I was recording Risa no Yousei Densetsu. The game is divided up into chapters, and at the end of chapter 1, you have to talk into the Famicom's microphone. This is a feature on the Player 2 controller of the original Famicom, which had hardwired controllers. I record on an AV Famicom. It has controller ports like the Nintendo Entertainment System, so that was a problem. Fortunately, I had plenty of footage here, but if you want to play Risa no Yousei Densetsu, you'll need to keep in mind that you have to have the microphone. Something that you're going to notice very quickly about Risa no Yousei Densetsu is that Konami is directly copying Nintendo. They're not even being subtle about it. The fairy tale setting feels like it might be a bit inspired by Shin Onigashima, but the real swipe is from Nakayama Miho no Tokimeki High School. Like that game, Konami got a real-life star to be part of their game. Risa Tachibana was the hot new thing at the time. She debuted as a singer barely 1 year before this game was released. And this is one of those cases where a talent agency basically manufactured an entire phenomenon around her. She even has a Nakayama Miho tie because her first acting job was in a sequel television show to the program that was heavily used to promote Miho. Basically, Risa was the next Miho, and since Miho had a game, Risa had to have one too. Coinciding with the release of the game was a single also titled Risa no Yousei Densetsu, Fairy Tale. Naturally, that song is peppered with references and hints to the game. The biggest thing here that signals that Konami was just copying Nintendo are the phone numbers. At multiple points in the game, someone will give you a phone number, and then you, the player, were supposed to call that phone number to get a special message from Risa herself. However, these phone lines were not up very long. You had until August 8th to get those messages. So, don't call that number right now. As far as I can tell, this game was never reissued either, so all versions of the game have those phone numbers in them. There's one more weird way that this game is copying Tokimeki High School, and it's kind of invisible here. This game was released on a blue disc. The blue discs had been Nintendo's exclusive special packaging for games that had been part of a contest. Risa no Yousei Densetsu is the only non-Nintendo game to use a blue floppy disk. The plot of the game is that you're hanging out at a Risa concert when both you and Risa are drawn into another world. A fairy, who also looks exactly like Risa, shows up and says that the two of you have to defeat an evil witch. To do that, you have to collect 3 special items, a harp, a jewel, and a sword, use those to defeat the witch, and then Risa and you can return to the real world. The game is packed with references to various fairy tales and classic children's stories, though most of them appear after the first chapter. But this is the little match girl. Yeah, they really like Hans Christian Andersen in this game. This is one of those menu-driven adventure games where you pick a verb and then pick something that you're going to do that verb to. Not all of the verbs are there continuously. There will be a few that only show up at certain locations, which will also tell you that you have to use that verb there at some point. The verbs are nothing too surprising. Look, talk, take, use. If you want to save your progress, you need to hit the start button, and then you can record how you're doing. Risa no Yousei Densetsu has puzzles, though I wouldn't say they're especially good ones. Your options are so limited that you'll solve them by trying everything. However, the game does have a pretty heavy dose of repeat command syndrome, a disease that infects a lot of these early console adventure games, where you have to use the same command over and over again, even though it appears to not be doing anything, until suddenly it allows you to progress. It's a technique to pad the game length that doesn't play fair with you. It's not a challenge to overcome or something you have to figure out, you just mash all of the menu options until it goes forward. There's also things that you have to know about Risa herself in order to progress. These details are in the manual, but if you're just playing it, you're probably going to struggle with them. One of the nice things in Risa no Yousei Densetsu is that they did include a lot of locations in the game. I'm used to these adventure games minimizing how many locations there are in order to save graphical memory, But even in Chapter 1, there's over a dozen different screens. Okay, some of them all look kinda similar, but it's still giving you more places to explore. In Japan, Risa no Yousei Densetsu is really well regarded. I mean, it lets players have an adventure with their favorite pop star. Of course they're gonna like it. And at the very least, Risa no Yousei Densetsu has a good atmosphere. There's some creative style here, and by the standard of console adventure games at the time, this does stand out. This is an approachable fantasy adventure game that works pretty well, and you probably won't get stuck for very long, assuming you know Risa Tachibana and have a microphone.